On today's show, hey, that Dune movie might actually finally happen. What's not going to happen is a host for the Oscars. That's okay because we know who's hosting the Movie Trivia Schmodown Awards. That guy. Movie Talk starts right now.
Oh, you shameless.
Yeah, it was just so easy.
Shameless.
It's just, one hand washed and the other. So easy. Yes, the Schmodown Awards are on January 12th. You can still get tickets at markellislive.com right here in Los Angeles. But hello and welcome to Collider Movie Talk. Over there is John Rocha.
Hello.
This is Haleigh Foutch. And I am, like I said, the aforementioned disco ball holding Mark Ellis. Now, we have a lot of news stories to get to today. Some news is good, some news is questionable, some news is, we don't have any Oscar host, perhaps. But before we get to all that, I want to give a special shout out to our own Perry Nemiroff, who, like you guys have heard the last couple of days, she had a very interesting set visit while they were filming Captain Marvel. The movie comes out later on this year, in just a couple months, I believe. And Perry has a news story about her set visit up on Collider.com right now that you all should check out. It's basically the Kree Special Forces team, which is, that's what the movie's about. So you have the team Starforce, I believe. So it's a very exciting article. Perry was thrilled to be on set. You can check all that out right now at Collider.com. Well, move on to our first story. And kids, it's as we maybe suspected after Kevin Hart was asked to step down by the Oscars. Kevin Hart was going to host the Oscars. He's not doing it anymore. And then a frantic search behind the scenes purportedly went on to find a new host. And then they came up with an idea. No host. Nobody whatsoever. Just have a team of stars come out from time to time, do some skits that are going to be based largely around the theme of music for the 2019 Oscars, celebrating the year in movies of 2018. So you get no host. No host will be taking hold of the Oscars, Haleigh. It's just going to be celebrities coming in and running the ship from time to time and a lot of presenters. Now, look, can you do this show without a host? Of course you can. You can pull off some, you can give out awards, you can have some funny jokes, you can have luminaries there on hand. It's going to be fine. It just doesn't feel like the Oscars. Is it going to feel like the Oscars to you, Haleigh?
I don't know, because I've never seen it that way before. So we'll find out. I don't know. It's an interesting move. I wonder if just nobody else wanted the job after everything, or I don't know why that happened. It's an interesting choice, but I don't think it's going to matter too much personally.
That's the real question here, Rocha. Haleigh brings up the best point, is that who was saying no, or was anybody even asked? Was this an Oscar committee decision to say, hey, we're not going to invite anybody, we don't want any controversy? Or was this them going out to people? Did they make phone calls to previous Oscar hosts, to new up-and-coming talent, and say, hey, do you want to do this? And everybody just said thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, on one of our previous Movie Talk episodes, we talked about them having some sort of clandestine meeting decided with people that they might be talking to host the show or whatever. That was supposed to happen at some hotel in West Hollywood or something.
They got a room at the Magnolia Room.
Exactly, the Magnolia Room, exactly.
Hilton.
They were going through it all with a PowerPoint presentation in the end. But I think it was too late. Once the Kevin Hart fiasco, they'd already pushed the deadline to name a host by getting Kevin Hart almost under the wire, and then all that controversy happened. And you when you're looking at this as an artist, why would you walk into this fray and have all your stuff from the past brought up? Like right now, what's happening with Farrelly, somebody finding an interview from 1998 in Newsweek, and he's having to pay for it 21 years later. Like all that kind of stuff really scares celebrities nowadays. And you've got to host the Oscars in front of all these people who are your contemporaries and your fellow colleagues in the business. And how are you going to do that? Are you going to have enough time to prep, enough time to hire writers, all those kinds of things? It's a daunting task to host the Oscars. And no matter how talented you are, even Billy Crystal said, it's incredibly difficult. He needs a lot of prep time to host the Oscars. And he was one of the best. So that lets you know the how daunting it is. But also, I think it's unfortunate on so many levels because look, how many changes happened in 2018 was all the Me Too movement, the Time's Up movement. We should have had a very powerful go to get a strong female host or a strong string of female celebrities to host the show. To me, I thought that was a massive mistake that they went out for Kevin Hart, went out for these people, and didn't understand or read the tea leaves of what happened in 2018 in this business. And so overall, yeah, okay, we'll see it without a host. It'll probably be fine. It won't be I don't think it'll be as fun or as interesting, but it'll work. I just think they missed a really golden opportunity here to kind of understand what's happening in the business and have a female host.
But will it work as far as a rating standpoint? Because look, that's what the Oscars has been worried about. years recent is that they're just losing viewers, that not as many people are tuning in to the Oscars, at least not in the conventional way, sitting down in front of your TV and giving the Nielsen rating some numbers. So they've lost viewers. I still think it was a frozen envelope situation with Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway at the end. I think that was rigged. That's just me. I realize that I'm in the minority. It's probably why I didn't get a call to host the Oscars. But if you lose viewers, how is not having any hosts going to spike that? Are we just on a different playing field now? Haleigh, do you think in an ironic way, not having any hosts of the Oscars could actually be a ratings boon?
I don't know how this year is going to perform. I'm like curious to see, because a lot of, I don't know if you noticed, the country's a little divided right now. And people, there's plenty of people who are like, get the politics out of my Oscars. That's why I'm not watching it. And fair enough, watch whatever you want. But certainly this debacle with Kevin Hart will then encourage, I think, that audience not to watch anyway. By the same token, scandal always is good for views a little bit, right? So we'll see. I don't think not having a host is going to make anything better for that.
No, I don't think you tune in to see nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess my question, Rocha, is also, did people ever tune in to see the host? I mean, I know I did. That's arguably my favorite part of the Oscars is watching the opening monologue. I love seeing it. I love studying it. I love seeing how whoever the host is works that crowd, because it's a very tough crowd. The jokes take a lot of time to prepare. And it's not just writing material, it's getting it through all the producers and all the red tape you have to get through to see that joke make it to air. I mean, you can do an award show. Have I started writing my monologue for Saturday? No, but I don't have to run it by anybody. I can just go do it. They have to go through so many hoops in order to do this. It's something that I always enjoyed watching. Yeah. But do you think that we're just at that point now where we're not going to have a host going forward? Is this the new status quo?
It's a good question. By the way, you'll be running that monologue for me, front row center at the awards, and I'll be giving you my response to that monologue.
I'm not sure what the seating chart is.
Immediately, I'll be giving you my response to that damn monologue. But I wonder if it's a choice, so you'll see how it goes. If by some miracle the ratings do go up and that people watch this and enjoy it, then maybe this gives them like, okay, we don't have to have a host. If we can't find the right host, now we have this other option to go forward as an Oscars, or as an organization rather. We now stumbled upon the situation. But they've made a number of errors here through this whole process. They also, that popular film category was a big misstep, and then this, and then other things that they were going through, this naked desire to get ratings. That show was never about ratings, and so that's become a huge deal now. It's just, I feel like they're being squeezed and squeezed and squeezed.
Well, it wasn't about ratings until the ratings started to go down.
Well, that's a fair point.
It was always about ratings. It was always about making the TV dollar and getting all these eyeballs on it, and that's why it's perceived as such this special, luminous gig. But when you break it down, it's not the most watched television event. So why are we scrutinizing the host so much? Is it because Hollywood is known as more of a liberal community and that it's very touchy? Is that the reason? I'm struggling to reconcile it myself.
Well, I know that for me, I always look forward to who the host was and then what they did with it, right? And that was part of the ratings was, how are they going to handle this, right? When they got, when they got Chris Rock, what's that going to be like? When they got Ellen DeGeneres, what's that going to be like? Franco and Hathaway, I wonder. And then you see these like train wrecks in some instances, and then Billy Crystal carry on the tradition of Bob Hope. That was great. And Steve Martin did a nice job. I thought Letterman was a train wreck. But you wonder who's going to step into this situation and do well. And so watching the host was part of the ratings, I think, for a lot of people. But now I think there's so many award shows, so many stuff going on. I mean, and the Oscars loses a bit of prestige here. Kevin Hart is using the Oscars on a media campaign now to resuscitate his career. It's incredible what is happening now, where the Oscars are being used as a springboard by him on this media campaign to save his career. I feel bad overall for how they look over this last year.
I don't think his career needs saving just yet. Well, but I think, certainly it's a talking point, because it's like, look, this was just too intense for me, and that's not. I think I speak for a lot of comedians when I say that scrutiny is way oversaturated. It's way too much aimed at a 10-minute monologue or at a person that's up there to be funny or to tell a joke. With comedy comes some risk. With the Oscars in general, Haleigh, ratings, you talk about all these things. Is it just the movies does it really boil down to that? Like, do we tune in to see the movies that win? Do we tune in to see the host? Why do you tune into the Oscars? What's the thing that gets you to say, I can't miss this event, if it in fact is a can't miss event for you?
I think it's different for everybody. For me, growing up a film lover, it was about the movies. Seeing if my favorite would win, I would get very invested the way people do about football and scream and throw and have fits. It was fun. But for a lot of people, I think it's the clothes. It's the celebrity factor. Look at all these fancy, famous people in the room together. Isn't it glorious? And that has an appeal. And then for some people, especially comedically inclined people, yes, it's the host. That's, you want to see, I like what you said a lot, John. You want to see the comedian bring to the table their particular take. And that's the only time I've ever really been extremely excited about a host, is like you mentioned Chris Rock, when you're like, oh, I don't know what we're going to get there. So Kevin Hart, anyway, was never that exciting to me. He was just like, sure, that's a natural fit, but I didn't see anything in his approach that made me thrilled to have him there. So it's one of those things, like, for me, I can say that Kevin Hart being or not being the host was never going to be a deciding factor. His whether or not he's homophobic removed from that equation, which I do personally take issue with the way he talks about those things. But just as a comedian, he was never going to be my big draw anyway.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the issue that a lot of people have, Rocha, is that we're going to be tuning into something and there's nobody kind of taking me through this massive the show's already 3 hours. You don't have a host to try to rein it in a little bit. The show could get bloated. Haleigh brought up a great point, though. So she gets very invested in the Oscars and the movies, and I know you do too, and to the point where it's like you're watching a sports team and you're really rooting. Can you all remember, give me one example of like the hardest you've ever rooted for a category at the Oscars? What's the one movie or the one supporting actress or best actor or best director that you wanted to win, that you can viscerally have a reaction to?
Probably.
No, please. I'm sorry.
Because you know how you are when you're a teenager and everything's the most important thing in the world. So, like, when I was a kid, it would be things like The Sixth Sense and Titanic that I was very invested in. Like,
you were happy that Titanic went on a record run.
I was very pro Titanic at the time.
Earned a lot of those awards, my damn self. I think it's a great movie.
I was a kid and I was just bowled over by that thing. I sat in the parking lot crying for like 30 minutes, and my mom was like, "Did we break her?"
Haley's crying, but her mom's just like the band on the Titanic. She's gonna keep playing. John Rocha.
Haleigh, it's been an honor. I saw that 7 times in theaters. I love Titanic. For me, the earliest memory I have of cheering for a film was Chariots of Fire. I saw that in the movie theater. I think it was in Catholic school. They took us to see it. It was such a powerful film that affected. Plus, it was a sports film, and the fact that it was being talked about and I was a burgeoning Anglophile at that time, so I was into everything British. And so when I was cheering, I remember just sitting there like, it's got to win, it's got to win, it's got to. And when it won, I was so happy for it, and just it solidified my love for the movie. And the other time was Shakespeare in Love. I fought everybody on that because I thought it was a better film than Saving Private Ryan.
Before it was announced, you were on Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah, I was like, I wanted Shakespeare in Love to win so bad because I'm a massive Shakespeare fan, and I think that movie really is the greatest movie about Shakespeare ever made, and it's just a fantastic slice of life. And John Madden did a great job with that movie, and I know it was up against a juggernaut, so it was an underdog film. I was
going to say,
Steven Spielberg, sorry,
98, around that time, you probably were fighting a lot of your army boys.
Yeah, I was. I really was. What'd you think of Rocha?
I appreciate this 20-year-old hot take.
Yeah, no,
I like that it's still like, ooh, weird take.
I do think it's. I still think it's. Yeah. I'm not sure it's the right decision. I did really enjoy Shakespeare in Love. Yeah. I have a friend, my friend Justine Marino. She's a great comic. She saw Titanic. I think she's seen it now in theaters 21 times.
Oh my goodness.
Can you touch that record?
No.
Okay, yeah. She saw Titanic 21 times, and you have no problem with me mentioning that. Justine Machine. She's ready for Titanic to come back in theaters for round number 22. I think I remember being very excited to see Robin Williams, hoping he would win an Oscar for Good Will Hunting, and then being very disappointed. Mark Rylance was fantastic in Bridge of Spies, but I just thought it'd be really special to see Stallone give a speech after winning as his character Rocky. It started way back in 1976. Didn't get an opportunity, and we're not going to get an opportunity to see anybody host the Oscars, but I am willing to bet whoever comes out first to usher us into the next segment of the Oscars is going to have a lot of fun. There's always comedic fodder to mine, and the fact that there's no host of this show, I think there's going to be some pretty good comedians showing up on stage one way or another the night of the Oscars. Well, we move on to our next story, and that is, if you think the Oscar ceremony is controversial, wait till you hear this one. So the ousted chief, John Lasseter from Pixar, has been hired to head up Skydance's animation department. This is per a report from Variety. He is setting up shop as the head of Skydance Animation. He's going to report directly to the Skydance CEO, who is David Ellis. I'm going to give you all two quotes here, and I'm going to have to borrow my computer for some of these because this is a very hot-button issue right now. I personally don't think that John Lasseter needs to be hired by anybody, much less somebody of the prestige of a Skydance or Skydance Animation, because my question boils down to this. Really? He's the only person that can head up your animation division with all the baggage that John Lasseter brings, a lot of success from Pixar, but there's also a lot of baggage, and he's the only person in the world that can do it? Okay, well, David Ellison had a quote, said that John has been forthright in taking ownership of his behavior, apologized for his actions, and has spent the past year on sabbatical analyzing and improving his workplace behavior. While we would never minimize anyone's subjective views on behavior, we are confident after many substantive conversations with John, as the investigation has affirmed, that his mistakes have been recognized. In contrast to that, Time's Up released a statement saying Skydance Media's decision to hire John Lasseter as head of animation endorses and perpetuates a broken system that allows powerful men to act without consequence. At a moment when we should be uplifting the many talented voices who are consistently underrepresented, Skydance Media is providing another position of power, prominence, and privilege to a man who has repeatedly been accused of sexual harassment in the workplace. People often ask when a man who has abused his power gets to come back. There's no simple answer, but here's some first steps. Demonstrate true remorse, work deeply to reform your behavior, deliver restitution to those you harmed. That's the bare minimum. Hiring decisions have consequences, and offering a high-profile position to an abuser who has yet to do any of those things is condoning abuse. So now we have this huge gray area between these two statements saying, well, is John Lasseter, what did he do on that sabbatical? Did he actually do self-reflection? Did he work on himself? Where does this lie? And even if he did do work on himself, does he deserve to come back in a position of prominence like the head of Skydance Animation? John Rocha, I go to you first.
Okay, well, here's what I say to this, and I've never been short for walking away from controversy. So I think it's a stupid decision. I think it's a massive mistake by Skydance because you're in the animation business. In the animation business, caters to children more than adults, and you're hiring a man who has this kind of legacy behind him. And look, yes, he's not Weinstein level, and then you start breaking down with nuance, but that's not what this is about. It's about optics. And you look at this, and yes, I think the Time's Up statement tells you what this optically looks like, and that is you're condoning this man's behavior. He just left like literally months ago, and already he has a high profile job like this, and it's because you're desperate to compete with Pixar and Disney, make that money, make those bucks. I get it in terms of a business decision, but overall as a company decision, I think this is a horrible choice to make and look for that company to have. And John Lasseter, why are you doing this? Like, you've got enough money. You don't need to ever come back to do anything, or you could start your own studio, be independent, do your own thing. Hey, work for George Lucas, do your own thing, and you don't ever have to be under a studio head. So to all of this all around, I think is just a bad look overall. A guy can't host an Oscars of a couple of Twitter comments, and you're going to give this guy a whole freaking department of animation, and he did all these terrible things to these women. So I just think it's a bad decision overall.
Yeah, I think that's a tough thing here, Haleigh, is that you look at it and you say, well, what exactly did, this guy's been accused of all these things. Multiple women have come forward and said that he made them at the very bare minimum feel uncomfortable working at Pixar, that there was inappropriate touching. And then you have him take a 6-month sabbatical. I understand why John Lasseter wants to go work. I think he wants to prove to people that he's, healed or whatever, that he can still do what he did at Pixar. But I just don't understand the decision from Skydance's point of view.
I don't either. I mean, it's money, right? All of this it always comes down to money. That's why Kevin Hart was removed from the Oscars or asked to leave or whatever that was. That's why he now has a job, despite that, like John said, it's obviously terrible optics. I think it's all very sad. It's very sad. It's, I think that Lasseter gets written off as like, oh, he hugged too much. Like, he was a hugger, so what? And that's not really it. It's when you read the accounts from the women who worked there, it's more nefarious. It's undermining an entire the female animators in this industry completely, because certain things, like they would be warned not to take one-on-one meetings with him because he couldn't resist pretty girls. So then they don't get to have meetings with their boss, which means their career doesn't get to move forward, which means we're losing voices, they're losing opportunities. It's not just that he hugged too much. And I think it's really sad that he got this back within like a year. It just makes me sad. I think it's...
Yeah.
I think it sends the message that, oh, okay, if you can do whatever you want, then you take some time off, go lay on a beach for a year, and then you can come back. Because I don't know what work he's done on himself. I don't know if I don't know what he has or hasn't done in that year, but I know what he's accused of doing before that year. And I just get so sick of men who are grown adults. He's an adult. He's an old man now, yet he always comes off as, look at these zany shirts I'm wearing. I'm just a little kid. I love little kids. Well, you can't act like a little kid when you're in office, particularly when you're in charge of people. And it just, this whole thing, I don't even know if Skydance is aware that this might not solve money problems. That this hire
might be negative.
Actually put them back. Because people don't want to go see Skydance movies because of this guy. Now, look, the majority of people, they may read this story, they may see this show, and then they're going to move about their day. And if they see an animated movie in theaters that they want to see, they want to take their kids to, they're going to go, and they're not going to really care who's behind it unless we're talking about who's voicing the main character. But I think that this is just one of those easy decisions that Skydance could have made and blew it.
And I just want to say, like, I think there's a place for recovering and learning and being better, and I'm very much in support of that. I am not the ban men or drinking male tears person. Like, I support growth and change and recovery. And like you said, we don't know what he did over the last year, so maybe he really has changed. But from, again, the optics of it are bad because we haven't seen any of that. All we see is him getting handed another position of power.
And this is not a movie. This is not George Bailey having a vision and he comes back and, okay, now I embrace my life. 6 months is not a lot of time to change who you are as a person. It really isn't. Especially the stuff he was doing. That is ingrained from young time. And so you strip away male female, it's the power dynamic as well, that he felt he could erase your humanity and do what he wanted to do to you because you weren't as valuable to the world as he saw himself, or to the company as he saw himself. And the company supported that point of view, and now Skydance doing this supports that point of view all over again. And I think that's really the most unfortunate message that it's sending, that you really don't matter until you hit this level, then maybe you do. And that's erasing your humanity, and that overall is a terrible thing to say.
Very well said, and we always welcome your comments on issues big and small, on topics that are very superficial or something that does carry very deep consequences. So let us know on the YouTube channel, on the podcast feed. If you guys are watching along with us, let us know in the live chat your thoughts on all these topics that we are talking about. We have a lot going on at Collider Studios today. An all-new Heroes just came up, hosted by Coy and Amy. There's a new Glass non-spoiler review that is up. The Schmoes are working on theirs. It's going to be up later on tonight. Interesting early returns for Glass. I got to see it last night. You guys can check out the Schmoes for my thoughts on it. But Haleigh, I know you have not seen it yet.
No,
Rocha, you did. I'm looking at the Rotten Tomato score. This is very, very early returns, but I checked out Rotten Tomatoes, 38%.
Yeah.
10 fresh reviews, 16 negative. That surprises me.
Yeah, it surprises me too, considering like me and Dan Murrell and Jeff Snyder, we liked the movie. We walked out of the movie liking the movie, and then you hear the chatter of our fellow colleagues talking how they maybe didn't like it as much, and so you see these at 38%. This is going to be a divisive movie. The first Unbreakable movie wasn't embraced by critics or fans initially on its release either, so maybe that's going on here, but we'll see. We do our Jeff Snyder and I have our non-spoiler review. We'll have a spoiler review next week from Collider as well, but yeah, that's the feeling overall. 38%. I don't understand it, but whatever.
Well, Glass comes out in a couple weeks, but in the meantime, you can keep yourself company with a new episode of The Witching Hour, hosted by that young lady right there, Haleigh Foutch and Perry Nemiroff. Their most recent episode has an interview with Tony Todd. Perry said he was a delight to have in the studio.
He absolutely was. Just a lovely, eloquent, sensitive man. He's a real in touch with his emotions and loves to talk about the theater. I loved him. He was wonderful.
Tony Todd, you can catch that right now on The Witching Hour. Well, we move on to our next story, but don't worry, I get to read another quote. This time, it's from Alex Kurtzman. He's the director of The Mummy. In a recent interview with The Hollywood Reporter, they're talking about the Dark Universe. Remember that? Anybody? Remember the Dark? They took that picture and all those people were in it, and we were going to set up this whole universe. It was going to be anchored by Russell Crowe's Dr. Jekyll, and Tom Cruise was in The Mummy. Remember the movie? Not the Brendan Fraser one, the Mummy one, and that was going to kick off. We were going to have Angelina Jolie, who was going to be the Bride of Frankenstein. We had all these movies. This Dark Universe was so exciting until it wasn't. The Mummy came out to less than stellar critical praise, and Alex Kurtzman is now quoted as saying, "The Mummy wasn't what I wanted it to be. I'm no longer involved in that and have no idea what's going on with it. I look back on it now, and what felt painful at the time ended up being an incredible blessing for me. I learned that I need to follow my own instincts, and when I can't fully do that, I don't think I can succeed. Those films are beautiful because the monsters are broken characters and we see ourselves in them. I hope those are the movies they make. I want to see them." So Alex Kurtzman being a little political, saying, hey, if they make more movies, I'll go see them, but also saying that was a painful experience, and I'm sure that he was not happy with the fact that he did not get to see his vision of the Mummy get to the big screen. Thoughts on the Alex Kurtzman interview here, Haleigh? Are you saddened as the co-host of The Witching Hour that it's kind of official, there's no more Dark Universe, or is this something that we just kind of knew for a while?
No, I'm not sad. I'm good with that. I never had a problem with the idea of like, we're going to do the classic monsters, but now they're superheroes. That was like, all right, that's stupid, but it's fun. I'll watch that. It's just that The Mummy was so very, very unenjoyable and not fun that you can see how it killed a whole franchise. But what I'm more interested in is now that if they're not doing Dark Universe, like that is valuable IP. So what are they going to do with the monsters now? Hopefully, being that connected universes were like the big rage 5 years ago, hopefully they've moved on from the obsession with that and can do something a little more creatively fulfilling.
Yeah, how do you go about that, Rocha? I'll go to you first. I'll go back to Haleigh. How do you resurrect the Dark Universe? And I'm not talking about Dark Universes and it needs to be this shared thing with all these huge movie stars playing characters, but how do you go about getting some of these monster movies to the big screen?
It's a good question. I mean, because what they have set up there at Universal is like, well, because Blumhouse seems to be the right, to me, it's bringing it back to a more smaller approach, because those original films weren't made for like $500 million or anything. They're made on shoestring budgets with people in like, the best makeup you could get at the time for that budget for like Creature of the Black Lagoon or Dracula or Frankenstein. But they worked because of the performances, the actors that you had in playing those roles, and the way that they understood the material even back then in the 30s and 40s, that was the basis for these characters. So I think that's how you do it. You go small, you get these kind of independent directors to come in and give some kind of vision or voice to these characters, because I bet a lot of them grew up watching these characters and would love a shot at doing a version of this. I do want to say one thing. The Kurtzman interview is interesting to me. It's very, let me save myself in Hollywood type thing. I should follow my instincts. I should have done this or that. And it's like, it's essentially blaming the studio for what went wrong with The Mummy. It's like, brother, you were on set every day. Like there's like, I really kind of push back against directors that go, I just wish I should have done this, I should have done that. It's like, no, own your stuff.
Well, if you followed your instincts, you probably wouldn't have quite as hefty of a wallet as you do after directing The Mummy.
True.
I mean, I look at directing a film a lot like I do the quarterback of a football team, where whether you won or lost, and whether it's fair or unfair, you're going to get the lion's share of the blame because you are the quarterback. That's the same thing when you sign the paper that says, I'm the one directing this movie. I'm not sure if that's what the paper looks like. I'm sure the contract's a little thicker than that. But once you sign on there, that's what you're signing. That's part of the job, is that whatever this movie turns out to be, you're the one that did it. So win, lose, good movie, bad movie, your name is associated with it. That's the price you pay for directing a film. Is that how we resurrect it, though, Haleigh? Do we just go super small? And I would stay away from casting an A-lister for one of these upcoming movies, whether it's Frankenstein or Wolfman, Dracula, whoever you want to resurrect it with is fine. I'd probably lead with your best foot forward with like a Dracula, but do you just do it small budget, creepy, get back that horror element, get rid of that dumb action adventure angle they have with Dracula Untold, just scare us?
Well, so that's an interesting thing you bring up, because they did Dracula Untold, which was not part of the Dark Universe technically, but I think that was them fumbling towards that. that's maybe not the angle to go. Although, like I said, it's fun and it could work if it was done well. I love what you said about Blumhouse. They have, you know, ties at Universal. They would be a really good fit. And I love what you said about not hiring A-listers, because I think the best way to go for any of these really iconic monster roles is really look to theater actors. Look to these grand, big charisma theatrical actors who traditionally, if you look at like a lot of the horror icons, including Tony Todd,
that's right.
They're theatrically trained, very dignified type personalities, and I think that works a lot better than your average action star. I love Tom Cruise, but still, he doesn't have that same presence.
They're dignified personalities until they try to bite your neck or turn into a bat or try to like resurrect a dead human being. They're dignified right up until that point. But you're right.
No,
I mean,
they're through it though. That's why they're so great. They do all that crazy stuff and they're still like enchanting.
That's right. If you bite somebody's neck and drink their blood, but then you just right afterwards. I agree with both y'all. Just make these on the cheap. Make these like you make horror movies now, because you can make a horror movie for not that much money. Even a huge property like Halloween did not cost that much to make, you know. And then you had Escape Room come out. That movie cost $9 million to make, and it's already turning a hefty profit.
Split was $9 million. That's a $9 million production budget. Glass is only 20. And that's Blumhouse as well. So, yeah, Mark, you make a great point.
All right. Well, the movie that is sure to cost more than $20 million is Dune. And that is the topic of our last story here today. Before we get to it, I want to remind you all to tweet us right now at Collider Video. Use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk, because I'm going to try to save some time for your live Twitter questions. THR, the Hollywood Reporter, saying that Stellan Skarsgård has joined the cast of Dune. He's going to be playing a big baddie in the movie Dune. This is Legendary's adaptation of, I think, is it Frank Herbert or Hebert? Is it pronounced Herbert or is it Hebert, like the Bobby Hebert down in Louisiana?
I've heard both.
All right, well, speaking of pronunciation.
That's a nice way of saying I don't know.
Yeah.
Directed by Denis Villeneuve. I think I got that one. So he's the one that's directing the Dune movie. This movie's been bandied about forever, been in a number of different hands over the years. Now it's a Legendary with Denis directing it. But that's not the only casting announcement. Is that playing his sadistic nephew is none other than Drax himself, at least Drax in the first two Guardians movies. Dave Bautista is going to be showing up on the sandy shores, the sandy planet. I've never seen Dune. I don't know anything about Dune, but I am excited to hear this news. Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, John Rocha. Did you just buy yourself some Dune tickets?
Well, I was already buying because I love Denis as a director, and I go see anything he does. He's never let me down yet, so I want to go see what he does with it. I'm not one of these people that is on the 80s bandwagon for this movie from the 80s. I thoroughly hated my experience sitting in a movie theater watching Dune with Sting and Kyle MacLachlan. It was just so weird, and Max von Sydow. So this is good casting. I like that you get Stellan Skarsgård, kind of evocative of Max von Sydow in that way, you know, and I love Bautista coming in too. Bautista's such a fun actor, and of course he must have enjoyed experience on Blade Runner 2049 to come and work with Denis again. You got to give a lot of love to what Dave Bautista is doing. He's working with these incredible high quality directors. You know, I know The Rock is doing great work, and it's a different situation. He's not like working with like Denis Villeneuve. Like that's a whole nother ballgame. So I give a lot of credit to what Bautista is doing. So I like both of these castings. It gives a lot of weight to the film. So I'm excited.
He's excited for Dune. Haleigh, Foutch, did you join John Rocha in ever attempting to view the version from the 1980s? Did you ever read the Frank Herbert novel?
I've seen the movie, but it's something I should revisit before espousing any strong opinions on it, so I was quite young. The book is on my shame list for life. I was telling John I've bought it 3 times over the course of my life, but it's so big that I get rid of it every time I move. I will do it, I swear. But I love not knowing the story that well. I love this casting because I love these actors, and I agree with everything you just said about Bautista. I think he's fascinating. I love what Villeneuve was able to get out of him in Blade Runner, so I'm excited to see him do that, but from a villainous angle. And I think that we all really love Bautista, and he is known for being a big sweetheart, but he is a big, imposing man who can be quite scary when used well. So I'm excited for that. And the Skarsgårds make great villains. Everybody knows that.
They are very good villains, and I agree with Rocha. Denis Villeneuve's name had me in this movie anyway. I want to go check out Dune. And I will say this might be a hot take. I've never seen the movie from the 1980s. I'm going to go ahead out there on a limb and say it's the second best thing that Sting did in the 80s.
What's the first?
I am not a Police fan. The first best thing is singing Background for Money for Nothing for the Dire
Oh, my
Straits.
God.
And then I put Sting in Dune, which I've never seen. And then way down here is his Years of the Police. I'm not a...
He launched his singles career in the 80s as well, man. Dream of the Blue Turtles is a good album.
Roxanne is a song that if I never hear it again, it'll be too soon. Not a good tune. You guys big Police fans? Big Sting?
Oh, yeah. Massive. Better than Van Halen, that's for damn sure. That's right. Shots fired. Shots fired.
I love how Grandpa is better than Van Halen. That's a damn shit. Takes a long pull off his Sailor Jerry. Gonna remind you guys tomorrow on Collider, you can check out all new Jedi Council. The Riley Roundtable drops, and it's our last movie talk of the week at 4 p.m. in the PST. Give us some live Twitter questions. Start off with some good news, especially for our buddy Satendra Banerjee. He just got a puppy for Christmas.
Nice.
And he said, since I have dogs on the brain, what's your favorite movie about dogs?
Oh.
Favorite dog movie?
Favorite dog?
Dog's Way Home, coming in theaters this weekend.
Marley and Me? No.
It's a great movie until the scene that shall not be named.
Benji, right? Benji. That's what I grew up.
Benji the Hunted?
Yeah, Benji the Hunted. I thought was a nice dog movie. Oh, no. Anchorman. That's my favorite dog movie. Anchorman, Legend of Ron Burgundy.
Is it Baxter?
Baxter. It's not even mad, Baxter.
Our own Thad Williams has a Baxter.
Oh.
An adorable Baxter at home. Looks a lot like another dog that has a soft spot in my heart, Molly. Haleigh Foutch, best dog movie.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of dog movies because they're always sad. They're always sad. The trailer for A Dog's Way Home literally makes me cry every time. I've seen it like 6 times. Okay, so the theme is that I cry really easily, I guess.
You could have been reading that Dune novel.
I should have been as well.
Wait till you cry through that.
So I'm gonna, maybe I will.
Not for the right reasons, though.
I'm gonna just say John Wick because it has a dog.
Yeah, it's not a good fate for that pup. I'm gonna go. I think Homeward Bound is a great dog. Milo and Otis.
Oh, Milo and Otis. Yeah.
Great dog movie. Air Bud, come on. The dog can play basketball.
All of the Buddies films. Literally any of them. Santa Buddies, Super Buddies. I watch all of those.
God. Space Buddies you've seen?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
I do not know of which you speak.
They're just little puppies dressed up as whatever the theme of the movie
Really?
is, like rolling around. And they have voiceovers, but that's not important. Yeah. It's important that the dogs are in superhero costumes.
Sounds good to me.
That's what matters.
Disney
I'm in.
thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not going to go see A Dog's Way Home because, like, here's the thing. Do I think the dog's going to survive? Yes, of course I think the dog's going to survive. That's like you really can't do it now. John Wick was the one exception, and he killed like 39,000 people because of one dog. You're not going to kill the dog in the movie. I accept that. But it's like that movie Pete's Dragon, right? The dragon, it made it out fine, but I had to watch a dragon get tortured for 2 hours to get to that point, and I don't want to see a dog go through any stress. It's not enough to just say, oh, well, the dog survived. I want to see the dog be happy for 2 hours, not be lost in the woods or inside a shoe.
I think you'll like these Buddies movies. I'm telling
Yeah,
you. Those are some happy dogs.
I am in on the Buddies, and Maggie Ledbetter is next up, and she says if you were suddenly selected to host the Oscars, there's nothing you can do about it. They wake you up, they say, hey, you got to get in makeup right now and get on that stage. What would your opening act be a combination of? What would you want to do in your opening monologue for the Oscars? For Maggie, she says it would be comedy and singing.
Oh.
She's not doing dance, she's not doing special effects, anything like that. She wants to do comedy and singing.
Probably crying and hiding.
Haleigh hiding on station.
I don't want to do this.
Here's the best picture.
Oh, God, I hate this.
And so Haleigh would put up a strong resistance to
Are you kidding?
the gig.
Please.
What would the outlaw do?
It would be everything.
Would you ride
It
out
be
on a horse?
Massive Busby Berkeley production numbers, being carried from the crowd all the way down to the stage, and then a little bit of singing with some of the best singers that are in the crowd or in the audience. And then, a little bit of fun little bit of comedy, but never lose what I always loved about Billy Crystal's things. Never lose the love for movies. So it would be connected to loving film, the art of cinema. So the older movies, all that would be referenced along with the ones that are nominated for that night. So that's probably what I would do, something like that.
I mean, it may surprise some people to say, if I could sing, and dance, I would do it.
Right.
I would love to sing a song at the Oscars. I just can't carry a tune. Like, even if I practice for 3 months, not going to trust myself to do it, to be able to pull it off that night. You have to do some auto-tune. So I just want to come out and tell jokes and make fun of some people and then bring up the first presenters, and think it'd be a fun time. So,
Classic.
that's what we try to do here. All right, one more question that we will call today. This is from George Safikis. George says he never saw Split, but now the Glass is coming out. He wants to go watch Split. You might have to watch another movie, too. Is there a movie that you passed on, but then went back to watch because a sequel was coming out? So you hear about this movie, part 2, and then you're like, oh, well, I want to see that, so now I got to go back and watch the original. Anything coming to mind on a sequel that made you watch the original?
Great question. Nope. I'm drawing a big blank personally. How about you two?
The Raid. When The Raid 2 came out,
Yeah.
I saw the trailer and I was like, what the hell is this? And then I remember that people had mentioned it. And so I went back and watched, I think on Netflix, it had been streaming on Netflix. So I went back and watched that and then went and watched the other one in the theater. But man, that's a good series of movies. That's probably the most recent one that I can remember going back to revisit installments before another installment came out.
That's how I caught the Die Hards. Knew the Die Hard with a Vengeance coming out, so I'm like, I hear these movies are really good. People reference it all the time, so crank Die Hard 1, Die Hard 2, loved them, still love them to pieces, the first 3.
Yeah.
I just realized that, like, I think a lot of my horror experiences were probably that because of my age. Like, I would have seen the theatrical release of Halloween H2O before I actually saw Halloween.
Yeah.
And then loved them both for the rest of my life. So, yeah, I think actually, like, I saw a Friday the 13th sequel before I saw the original. Any long-running horror franchise, I would not have been allowed to watch it when I was a kid.
Yeah, so you got to go in through the back way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think the big answer for me is this: the entire franchise is the last 2. I think this was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 was coming out, and I'd never seen any of the Harry Potter movies. And so Christian had them all on DVD, so he brought them over to my place, dropped them off, and he's like, here, watch these by next week. So I just blew through all the Harry Potter movies, and they're great.
I'll give you one you forgot about. When Blade Runner 2049 was coming out, someone hadn't seen Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And someone got peer pressured into seeing it finally.
Yeah, by you, by John Schnepp, by everybody else, and it was always fun messing with Schnepp because everybody constantly asked him,
Yeah.
hey, should I watch the director's cut? Full well knowing that he's going to say the director's cut, but missed that guy a lot. And yeah, he turned me on to Blade Runner, and I really enjoyed Blade Runner, and I liked Blade Runner 2049.
Me
so
too.
maybe don't put that much money into it next time. But it's like Denis Villeneuve. Speaking of, so how much is Dune going to cost? Probably a lot. All right, we're going to call today here around these Collider Movie Talk parts. I want to thank my incredible panelists for helping us out here today. Haleigh, Foutch, where can all the kids find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Haleigh Foutch, and you can find me on Instagram at Haystack McGroovy.
All right, and John Rocha, I'm seeing we're out of time, so we're just going to throw. No,
that's
where
all
can we
right.
find the Outlaw?
I'm the Matt Damon of the show. I get it. You can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And yeah, get your tickets for the Schmodown Awards. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, go get it. I might make an appearance. I may get an appearance. I'll be there.
You going to be presenting?
I am presenting with the lovely. Well, I don't think I can say who I'm presenting with, but I'm presenting.
But we know that person lovely.
That person's very lovely.
Will you be presenting with me?
We shall see. Do you have pink hair? Anyway, and also Collider Sports, all that is happening. And of course, our review of Glass is up there. Me and Jeff Snyder having a little fun in the podcast studio for like 15 minutes talking about the movie. I kind of like doing reviews like that. It's a lot of fun.
It is fun talking about movies as we do around here day in and day out. Throw it to the wide to say goodbye. You can catch us talking about movies one more time this week, tomorrow, 4 p.m. in the PT. My name is Mark Ellis. I'll see you guys at the Comedy Store this weekend. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.